Okay, guys, since we're doing the Dark Night of the Soul, we might as well do this one in black and white. To start this off, I just want you all to know that I love you very much. And I have been spending this time studying up before I began. So if you guys do have your notebooks, you can grab them, please. And just pause it as you need. But after I finished my studying, I felt a lot better actually about it than I did, when I first began. I'm going to turn that light off just because it's like beaming through there, but I did pull the cards out that we need for the reading. But before we begin, no, we're beginning. So the Dark Night of the Soul is actually a death of your ego, which means that the way that you perceived life to be, or the things that were the most important in your life, are gone, ripped away from you. For example, it could be loss of a marriage, loss of a job, a death, being cheated on. I mean, anything that has the ability to honestly hurt your ego to the point where you see the world as a place that you don't want to be a part of anymore, or a place that there's just no reason to try. It's that moment in your life when you feel very alone and empty, and all you can think about are the things that have been taken away from you, and you don't know what to do. Some people confuse it with anxiety, or even label it hitting rock bottom. But for many years, it has been called the Dark Night of the Soul, and it was inherited from the Spanish mystics, and you guys can look that up. It actually came from St. John's from thousands and thousands of years ago. And it occurs when we create a false idea of things around us, and we allow our ego to take control of our mind, our body, and soul, and basically manipulate us into believing things that we know are not true. And an example of that would be, let's just say if your person that you're dating is physically abusive or cheating, and you know this, and it's hurting you badly, but every single time that you confirm this within yourself, you might tell yourself, it's not the way that you think it is. Maybe this person's not as bad as what you know that he is or she is. Maybe they will never do it again. Basically, what your ego is going to do is going to start to make you believe that things are better than the way that they are. And we all do that. There's plenty of times when we sit in the moment and we just feel the pain inside, and it hurts. And we get up and we get busy, or we call somebody, or we get high, or whatever it is that we do to deal with it. Some of you guys are in the dark night of the soul because you lost your children. You lost your family. That's what happened to me. I lost my kids when I was CPS involved, and it hurt bad. Some of you guys are going through the dark night of the soul because you can't forget about things that happened to you as a child. You were abused sexually and physically, verbally, emotionally. I'm really sorry to hear that. So, what happens when you're feeling the dark night of the soul is extreme pain and agony, because what's happening is that their higher power is coming down and actually shattering every single thing around you in your life, and breaking it, every wall down that you have put up around you for protection, that your ego is built to make you feel like things are better than they really are. And you've had many, many chances, to take care of these things in the correct way, and you haven't. And you still have the opportunity to continue to live And I think that that says a lot right now, that the Lord would be coming in and bringing a tower moment into your life to actually come and save you. And I remember when I went through the dark night of the soul, I lost my boyfriend. He got arrested and went to prison, and I lost the kids to CPS, and I was in the apartment by myself. And I remember all the kids' rooms were filled with all their clothes and toys and cribs. And I was there all by myself. The way that my ego handled it or took over my mind was, I obviously felt the way that I'm talking about feeling right now, and it was really hard. It was the worst time ever in my life, and that's what it means when it says that it's going to strip you down from this false identity that you've created for yourself. And what happened was, you know how I like to explain it is, a lot of times, good people try to live both worlds. We try to do bad things, and also we at heart are great parents. We love our family. So if you guys know anybody in your family that uses drugs and comes and goes, I want you to know they really do love you. I still don't know exactly to this day, honestly, what it is about our personality type exactly, but we always do seem to get back inside of our ego and do what we want. We tell ourselves that we can get away with it, and we tell ourselves that we can fix things that we can't. And the minute that in your heart you feel like whatever it is in your life is hurting your heart, when you have that moment where you feel that feeling, it's literally in that moment that God has given you that signal to get out of this chapter and move on, that your time here is done. He doesn't mind what we do, but he doesn't allow or recommend. He doesn't want people to hurt each other and bring each other down. And there's something special about you. And I didn't even know that this was an intervention from God, to be honest. I knew that I had went through the dark night of the soul, but until tonight, I did not know that this was actually a specific divine intervention. And it's used as an instrument to get you to surrender to your higher power. And I just feel like there's a lot of people that overdose and die, and they never have this opportunity. So I'm honestly just really blessed. And I can't help but just wonder, why. I don't need to wonder why. I don't even need to know answers why. But if you didn't think you were special to anybody, I actually want to cry tonight thinking about how special we must have been to have gone through the dark night of the soul, being that it's a divine intervention. To me, that means a lot, and it says a lot, and it makes me feel like that you're special right there was the most meaningful special I've ever been told in my life. And I wasn't putting my higher power first ever until I started studying tarot and meditation and martial arts. I didn't understand what that meant. I always kind of put my man first, was my biggest issue. I always was really into dating, and I wanted to serve my man and make him happy, to the point where I actually was in a lot of abusive relationships because I came out of I didn't learn the things that I needed to learn for me personally at the time, or I'd never had. I didn't know much about loving anything. I didn't know how to love myself. I also ran on ego. I was running on ego since my sister Kinsey died when I turned 14. I remember I had a big ego even before that. I had ego from the womb. I think I developed my ego at 4 years old when my parents got divorced. I remember specifically one day in my room, my mom and dad were fighting, and I was at the bottom bunk on my bunk bed, and there was a long hallway, and me and my sister Kinsey were in the room, and my mom and dad were fighting about getting a divorce. And I remember my dad saying, please don't, Karen, please. And they were just screaming. Well, she was screaming, and my dad was pleading. And I remember being in the room with my sister, and my hands just being on that wooden bunk bed that my dad built us, and not wanting my dad to go. And ever since that moment, I'm pretty sure my ego, I already know. I've already thought down to it myself that this literally started from my parents' divorce. I loved my dad a lot, dude. I never wanted to stop visiting with him, and we didn't get to visit him, and court happened and all this fucked up shit. And you know what? Some of you guys have that. Some of you guys went through divorce. And some of you guys never even had a dad or a mom in your life. And you know what? That's where a lot of us started, our roots. And we never really were love. We never saw love. All we saw was people complain and yell and fight and hate on each other. And it was horrible. It was a horrible experience for a lot of us. And I want you to know that I spent a lot of years being upset about it and mad and even blaming my mom and dad. And I had a lot of misconceptions about the whole thing. And that's what it says, is that we have to lose who we thought that we were, and we have to lose the view that we thought the world was. We have to understand that our ego builds these misconceptions of what we think things should be or how people should be. And we were never actually around anybody to stay forever. Now, it doesn't matter if it's your parent or your lover or your job, your child. The truth is that we forget to love each other. We forget to be true and honest to each other, and we're very unwilling and we're very stubborn. And like I said, many things have been offered to all of us. Like when I was in services for CPS, I went through 8 different treatment centers. I graduated all of them. I kept getting out and going back to my boyfriend and just doing the same old crap, and by the time I'd actually moved up here and did it right, over a year had passed and I didn't pay attention to the guidelines. For people that are CPS involved, you have 1 year to get it right, because that's not fair to the kids to be out of the home for more than that while you decide if you want to do what you need to do. And, it's little things that are major like that. And our ego allows us to think we have more time, to think it's not that big of a deal. The ego hurts people. The ego is that thing that makes you feel better after not coming home for a few days, being all high and shit, and knowing that you left your kid somewhere. And the ego is that thing that you tell yourself after somebody screams at you for something that you did, and you did something wrong, but then all of a sudden the ego kicks in, and it starts to decide that maybe that person's wrong, or you find things about that person that you want to throw back in their face. The ego has a way of kicking in. It's literally like a generator when your power goes out, and it's used to not see the world in the true way, because if you did that, if you really accepted what was happening around you, it's a loss of your identity for the person that you have made yourself believe that you are.
using myself as an example, I believed that I could have my apartment and hang out with whoever I wanted to and just do these classes and graduate and still at the end of the day play everybody and uh, and beat the system and still get the kids back. And that was my ego. God did come into my life, and He did. I didn't know until probably last year or the year before about the dark night of the soul. But for me, I experienced my dark night of the soul in 2007. I was having my third baby with the guy that I was asked to never see again. I was also very addicted to heavy drugs that I had started using with that person, and even though the drugs were hard to give up, the love that we shared was harder. And we had 3 kids. I had to give up my apartment, and I had to leave my family, and I had to change everything. That's what it's saying. It's saying that it's going to strip us down of every single thing that we use as security. So anything in your life that you have, that you know you can turn to as a clutch, it's going to be taken away from you. So if you're somebody who has lost everything and everything keeps going away more and more and more, and you're like, how is it more freaking going away? I don't even deserve this. I don't get it. That's what's happening. This is the dark night of the soul for you, because you're going through a rebirth. And there's honestly something really special about you if you're still alive and God is coming to get you. This is a sacred rite of passage, and it will be determined like how much you're going to be able to go through and how fast, based off of like how willing you are to surrender and how honest you are during this process. And regardless of whether or not you want to go through it, because I tried everything to get out of this situation. I did. I remember trying every single thing possible. I had noticed multiple times, dude, that I just didn't, I was getting defeated, dude, over and over and over. Defeated. And I didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't know who I was. I had honestly been exposed in every way for everything that I had done. My pride was taken, and my family was taken, and we were publicly we embarrassed ourselves. We even got my son's dad involved because if we get involved with CPS, then the other parent too has to deal with it too. And we just my mom had to take the kids, and my sister, who didn't have any children at the time, had to raise my kids. And I remember coming in and out of my mom's house as I pleased, and um, their faces and my babies being small. And I don't know, my ego allowed me to not take it seriously. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I didn't think it, I told myself that it wasn't fair that I was being asked to leave my man. I told myself that because other people did things that were bad too, that they were being hypocrites or snitches. I told myself anything possible to not believe that I was really going to have to give up everything in my life. It was really hard to wrap my mind. I, I most certainly knew that I didn't need those people or those things, or that the relationship I was in was toxic. And I knew that before the kids. I knew that before the kids were even born. I didn't know I was pregnant until I was a few months in, and I wasn't gonna keep them. I was gonna end the pregnancy because I knew that me and James were very toxic together. We were very much like Harley Quinn and the Joker, no doubt. Like, I've always said he was my bad side soulmate. I don't know what it was, but the way that we worked together, it was like it was just it was intense. And I was scared, honestly, about the future that we shared together, knowing our history. and I planned to terminate the pregnancy. I didn't want to have kids with him. But my mom she's a beautiful woman and she's very religious and she loves God and she doesn't believe in that kind of stuff. And when I was driving up there, I was just worried, honestly, because me and James, we weren't on the straight and narrow. And it had already been a few months since I didn't know I was pregnant for a few months. I was worried that the babies may not be healthy, and I was scared of what their future looked like with the way that our present was now. I just didn't think it would be a good idea. My mom stopped me that day. She called me over and over in the car, and she kept telling me, please, don't do that. And she sent me a picture of what they do at the abortion center and how they actually get the babies out and how they remove them and what they do exactly. And it was pretty gruesome. And at the bottom, she put, if you do this, God will consider you to be a murderer. And I turned around and I have two beautiful girls today, Miley and Brooke. And it hurts to know that that was the beginning of their development. But that's what I needed to take a look at then, and that's what I have to share as my story today. And neither one makes me feel good by any means. But one good thing well, there's many good things. My beautiful babies are alive today, and my mom, she does have them. And that is not what I thought my life was going to be. I am not the type of person that is would have ever been wanting my mom to have my babies. But what I can tell you is that they're doing really well and they're very healthy, and that I basically get to be the baby dad and I pay child support, and it's really not that bad. And I do get, usually, between my oldest and my youngest, I've kind of had most of the time, and then my mom's had the middle ones, and she gets time with all of them. She has all the kids get to go back and forth, and they've just grown up to be such wonderful and beautiful people. And for many years, I was very angry about this. My mom doesn't even know that I love her so much or that I would say this. And I never would have thought that I would, but that's what the dark night of the soul is going to do. It's going to strip you down of your complete false identity. And my false identity at the time was using drugs, and it was in a relationship that was not going to work out. My baby dad is dead now, overdosed, and never stopped doing the things that were a problem. Had I still been there and not been stripped down of all of my things I was hiding behind and forced into a state of consolidation, loss of identity, this is a very volatile catalyst for change. And it's going to create so much disarray and chaos. Everything in your life, there will be nowhere to hide, nowhere to go. You're going to be 100% vulnerable and completely exposed and stripped away from all of your outlets, anything that you used as a resource. There will be nothing when you're going through the dark night of the soul else that you can do except for surrender. And I remember that day. I kept getting into trouble because I was trying to play the system. They weren't buying it. I was getting through my classes, but they could see that my health and my body and my actions and my behavior and my words didn't match up to what the results were saying. So they remained. They remained. And you know what? I remember having to lie and hide and block people's numbers and lock my door and keep my curtains closed. And sometimes I even moved the couch in front of the door because I just didn't want anybody to come inside. I did anything that I could to avoid everybody. I stopped coming over more and more and more. Started to hate my mom. Everybody started to hate me too. I got in an accident in December, right after I lost the kids with my van. I rolled it 2.5 times. I woke up upside down and the whole vehicle was crushed around me with jagged pieces of metal, and I remember seeing everything that was from my van on the ground. That was one of the last few things that I was getting stripped of. I'd already lost my family, my kids, my man. I needed to lose my vehicle and I needed to lose my home. And then my freedom and choice. It was coming, all within a month, that month. I luckily only bit my tongue and knocked my head unconscious that day. I woke up in the van upside down, crushed in. But I got out. I don't remember getting out, but I was walking and standing. I don't remember walking up the hill, but I found a house and I tried to get inside, but I feel like there was something like maybe like a road blocking the door. I don't even know if this even happened, because next thing you know, I'm back down at the van and there's ambulance there, and they're holding me down on the table, strapped down, telling me not to move, and I just kept saying, "Get me off this table." And they kept asking me if I had anybody I could call. I couldn't remember anybody's phone number except for my dad's. I miss my dad. He died in December, dude. I love my dad. Missing my dad. And I could remember my dad, and I called him. He called my mom. I had to stay at my mom's house for 17 days. I hated it. And for people that have addicts, and one that is an addict, it sucks being at your parents' house or in any house where you can't go and do what you want. My back hurt so bad. I hated being there. And I left on day 17 on foot. I needed to go get high again. I ended up going to jail, again. I was luckily on DSC, which nobody thinks is lucky at the time. But if it wasn't for them literally coming into my house and my home and my life and my brick and everything, dude, they forced me. I was forced to change. And for those of you who have good hearts inside, you can't help but hear the calling. And when you are feeling like the world has nothing to look forward to, that's not because it doesn't. It's because your heart is yearning for something to look forward to. You're connecting with your divine at that moment, and I know that we don't look at it like that because I never would have imagined that this catalyst for change right here would bring me to where I am today. I went from being in all of that legal stuff to now I have healthy relationships. I don't have anybody around me that steals, lies, or cheats. I'm not involved in anything legally. I am a teacher. I am a salon manager. I'm a corporate leader. I'm trusted with keys to businesses. I have my license back. I have my car. I have a beautiful house, and my kids are in my life, and I have non-supervised visitation. And I don't mind paying child support, and it took me a long time for that too. I was very angry about that. I was like, this bullshit. But now I try to just see the pro in every con. One of the biggest pros is that when I have 2 kids at a time versus 4 at a time, I get quality time with those kids now. I don't have to worry about trying to figure out how I'm going to feed a family of 5, at the same time. Sometimes it's just 2 or 3. There's a lot of pros in it, you guys. My mom doesn't have to be at home alone. They can help her on the farm. And they're turning out to be wonderful and beautiful individuals, which they needed that. They needed a good place to be. They needed that. And I didn't know that even until about a year ago, maybe. I've never really thought about my mom doing a favor for me. I was very angry at it. But I told you guys even about my relationship with Edward. That ended in 2019. So what? The kids would have just been up here dealing with me growing up until then? They're 15 now. Miley and Brooke are 15 on the 3rd. They don't, no, nobody deserves that. I'm not a bad person because I had kids, in my teens. I wasn't mature and I wasn't ready, and I can forgive myself for that. And my mom's not a bad person for intervening and wanting to protect me and the kids. And she did give me the opportunity to get better. But it just took advantage of people, and I lied. I manipulated. And even more, I still needed to grow up. Until even right now, it hasn't really made sense to me. And over the last few years, ever since I stopped letting boyfriends live with me, and I've had more time alone to think and break these things down and research the more deeper meanings, I'm able to forgive and feel better and live in a world that I see things I want to do in again. I can go to the lake. I do go swimming now. I've spent the last few years swimming again. This year I plan to go camping again. And it took me many years of feeling like I was a piece of shit. Trying to restart a brand new family. Trying to make what I didn't have, appear in my life again. Just so much. Just constantly trying to rebuild that ego death up again. And today it didn't work. I'm a better person than I've ever been in my life. And I would, who would have thought, and who probably thinks of anybody that would be all those things involved is a good person. But I know that we are. And I think that we're very special and beautiful because I do believe that many of us go through this because we have to help other people who are going through it too. And we do have to sacrifice. And, God sacrificed his Jesus. And sometimes we got to actually go through lessons to really be able to help people learn them in a way that is deeper than just textbook or licensed degree. There's just something about actually going through something that is so much deeper than you can even imagine. And I would never want anybody to go through the pain that we have. But in the cards, if we were doing the cards, we're going to wrap this up unless I forgot something. I really did. I really love learning. But basically, what happens in the beginning of an ego death? Is that you've come to a point in your life where it is time to move on. We talked about your higher power coming in and intervening. There's been a void in your life for a long time. And that is what is going to be taken a look at. And your blockage is your ego. And those things that you are in pain about missing and longing for will be brought to the surface in those voids. We're going to be taking a look at those, and we're going to be figuring out the underlying cause and reasons. Even if it's like, for me, I had to go clear back into 4 years old and remember my parents' divorce. I thought for sure it was the other things. I kept breaking it down. I crap you not, I got all the way to 4. Right now you're lost in the darkness, and your angels are coming to get you. Whether you want to get out of it or not. What's happening right now is that everything in your dark world is going to be removed from you. Like if your dealers might get busted, like I said, your car might get wrecked, your boyfriend or girlfriend might leave, your mom or dad might kick you out. You're gonna have nowhere to go anymore. You've been very resistant to change, and you don't get the choice now. People have been saying you need to do this, you need to get right, you need to do what you need to do, but you haven't done it. You've been fearing. You've been fearing giving up the things that you need to. And you know that you need to. You guys don't want to walk away from the different people that are hurting you or the things that are abusing you, and so you just accept the abuse into your life, and it is 1000% not healthy for you, and it is unacceptable to your higher power and the universe and the divine. And at this point, some of you are actually hurting people for fun. I was thinking that literally, and pleasure in the reverse came up, and literally some of you guys are actually now taking your pain and your anger, and you're expressing it outwardly, and basically like energy is it goes into the universe. Like, you cannot just feel the way that you do and be angry and bitter and hateful and expect nothing to come of it. The intensity of how we feel is the intensity of what will be returned. So do try to think about that, because the longer you spend thinking about angry things or rage or hate towards another person, it does have to be returned to you, and you won't really know when that will happen. Karma, I learned, has a very specific way that it works, and what it does is it waits for you to have the things in your life that you've been really working hard to get, really waiting your whole life for. Karma is fully aware of your deepest and biggest dreams, and it states clearly that it will wait as long as it needs to and allow you to get where you want to be. And then when you're there, that's when it will take it from you. So when we are sitting there and we have an event occur that's out of nowhere, and you're like, I don't even get why this even happened to me. Honestly, it could have been from something a long time ago. And instead of being angry that it happened to you, what the challenge is that you actually dig deep within yourself and you find the underlying reason. What was this being returned to you from? You're going to go through a lot of different theories in your head. But when you get the right one, your head and your heart will make a connection, and you will feel it in your chest. And that is how you will know. And what you need to do, because the first thing that you're going to feel is a little bit of guilt and shame and pain. And those three things are really hard to feel. I remember the year that I made shame a focus. I remember. I remember the year that I realized I was ashamed of myself. Shame. I wasn't mad at my mom or my dad. I was ashamed of myself for not being the person that I wanted to be. And so I was blaming people for the things that they brought up, to my attention. I hated anybody. We push ourselves away from our family and our friends and basically anybody. If they say anything that's against our new lifestyle, we just cut them out of it. And then we try to come back around and be a part of what we used to have, and it's really actually disrespectful. It's not fair to the people that loved us to have to see us that way, and it's not fair for them to get robbed, lied to, taken advantage of, and disrespected. And it's just not fair for them to take care of our kids and any of the shit that we're doing. And that's why I know that when we gotta stop. We all gotta start just really just like growing up and stop being mad and blaming. And I didn't know how to do any of that. I didn't know anger was a secondary emotion. I thought I was really mad. So learning different things like this and learning about the dark night of the soul and understanding that this is a ego death of a false identity that we have created for ourselves to not do or get better. It actually doesn't sound like it's that bad. And I can tell you that I've gotten through it, and I'm here today, and I am the first person in my side of the family that has bought a house ever. I'm also the first one who graduated college not just once, but twice now. I'm proud of the awakening that I went through, and I'm really grateful that I surrendered and broke free, that I trusted in this new path, and that I allowed a rebirth to happen. I feel a lot more balanced. I let go of a fixed idea and a fixed plan that my ego had created out of painful events. I was going to be a lawyer because I kept getting arrested. I was going to move out and have a big house because I lived in a trailer. I was going to have the best marriage ever because my mom and dad didn't. Who was I? I was important to God as an individual. He did not see me as theirs or theirs or theirs or this. He didn't label me as anything. He said, child of mine, like, you need to surrender as an individual. He didn't say, get your parents and go ask them. He didn't say, get your man. You two need to come over here right now. He said, I'm taking you as an individual, and we're getting you the fuck out of here. You're done. We're going right now. So if you're alone right now and you have nothing and nobody in your life, just know that when you only saw one set of footprints on the beach, that was when God was carrying you, okay? You were never alone.